Why sex was important? A consideration of the barriers to loving that exist and what we can do about it therapeutically. Sex is a system of nurturance in relationships. It goes along with psychological intimacy. First comes psychological intimacy, the knowledge of another person, the sharing of the self with another person, which breeds sexual desire. And sexual desire then creates sexual intimacy, which adds to the psychological intimacy. And ideally, it's a positive feedback loop where more intimacy creates more sex, and more sex creates more intimacy. The barriers to loving have to do with all those things that might interfere both with psychological intimacy and with sexual activity. I divide the barriers to loving into three major categories. The things that are so strong that they impair dating and courtship and bonding of another person. And then the things that happen after the bond is created, the personality characteristics of an individual, the behaviors of an individual that interfere with the partner's ability to cooperate and feel comfortable and safe in the presence of the partner. And the third category, which is harder to understand, but we have to take our time and conceptualize that. There are things within ourselves, conflicts and dilemmas, that make it difficult for us to feel and extend love towards another person. Sexual problems can be the consequence of some of the barriers, and some sexual problems can be, in fact, a barrier unto themselves. A major point for mental health professionals is that I am trying to interest the mental health professions to look at both the DSM-5 diagnoses and other behavioral problems not captured by the DSM-5 as impediments or barriers to loving. So if we take schizophrenia, for example, it's a courtship disorder. You see, people take a look at a schizophrenic person's behavior and may say goodbye, you see. Or we take narcissistic personality patterns. They have no trouble forming relationships, but maintaining the relationship is difficult. And then there is this very dramatic, very difficult problem of what we call the love-lust split, where men and women have no trouble having sex, and they have no trouble loving somebody, but they cannot bring those two currents together, and they cannot have sex and love the same person. And so that leads to infidelity, which unto itself, infidelity then becomes an enormous barrier to loving. And one of the things that I spoke about at length at the APA meeting was what mental health professionals ought to do, may do, and should not do in dealing with situations of infidelity. I've divided the understanding of love's processes into 4 stages. Falling in love, being in love, which is when you discover that the woman or man that you love loves you back. The big challenge is staying in love, which could last as long, given our genomes, last as long as 65 to 70 years. And then the usually overlooked aspect of love, which is grieving for the loss of love, whether we've lost it through death or divorce or some misfortune, other kinds of misfortune like a serious disease.